Hello and welcome to Politics. Today I am Farrukh Pitafi. Today we are going to talk about two things. One, the speech of the Prime Minister of Pakistan, which I am going to introduce in a bit. And then, of course, the state of economy and where we are headed with the new finance minister, newly minted finance minister who has just taken over. So we are going to talk about both these things, but let me first talk about the Prime Minister's speech today, his address to the nation. It was important because it comes at a very crucial juncture. There is civil strife in certain parts where one group actually has been demanding that the French ambassador from the country ought to be expelled on the basis of blasphemy charges. The caricatures that actually were published in France, and after it was supported, the idea was supported by the French president as well. And we have been seeing agitation. We have seen the kind of attacks that took place on the law enforcement agencies as well. And now, finally, there are talks that are going on between that proscribed group and, of course, the government's first Punjab government and then the federal government. In about 1 hour, the third round will start. But the Prime Minister actually pointed out 3-4 very important things. Regarding blasphemy, he pointed out that in Pakistan, there is nobody who would actually go against the grain of the idea of namus-e-risalat or respect for the Prophet of Islam. And then he said that TLP or the proscribed organization, its views about the Prophet and the governments and everybody else's are the same when it comes to the sentiment. But when it comes to the approach, that is different. These people are attacking their own property, attacking their own law enforcement, but the government believes that the advocacy and educating the West about the sentimentality of the Muslims on the issue is more important. This was one aspect that he highlighted. Then he, of course, talked about the overall loss to the exchequer, to the economy, because of the agitation that is going on. And then, naturally, he also pointed out that it will not be in the interest of the country to expel the ambassador, the French ambassador. We are going to first talk about that. And in order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Mohammad Ibrahim Khan Sahab, MNA Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the ruling party. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Javed Dutana Sahab, who is a senior journalist, analyst. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Ahmed Hassan Mughal Sahab joins us via Skype. He is former president of Islamabad Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program as well. Ibrahim Khan Sahab, let me start with you. Let me ask you, do you think that this speech will take care of the agitation that is going on?
I think the speech was very much needed when a situation of this magnitude has occurred, and I think the Prime Minister's speech was due. And I think he has been trying to convey his message to all the sane minds that we are on the same page. The only difference is the modus operandi, like how we want to go about it.
Right.
And that's where we can sit down and come up with a strategy, and which the Prime Minister was already addressing on an international level and making them realize that, you cannot go on to, this kind of a, blasphemy kind of, we have a complete respect for all the holy prophets, and never even a single Muslim has been in a situation where he would say something bad about, because our religion does not allow to begin it with.
All right.
At the same time, Now, some irresponsible people sitting abroad, intentionally or unintentionally, or in the name of freedom of speech,
Yeah.
come up with some, very objectionable these
Activities, right.
activities.
Right.
Then if we react to that by, hitting each other or creating a situation where the country and the people of Pakistan lose, or the families, some families, they like the way it
Right.
happened here.
Right.
I mean, we cannot afford to do that. That straightly means we are playing in the hands of those who will be really enjoying the
Right, and the Prime Minister actually pointed this thing out as well, that there is an element of provocation inbuilt into such activities, because those people who want to offend actually seek the dent out of whatever is happening here. So we are going to further talk about these things. Let me bring in Javed Rana Sahab. Javed Rana Sahab, Prime Minister pointed out that he has been advocating the cause, and he has gone even to the General Assembly and elsewhere as well, where he has pointed out the sentiments of the Muslims and their sensibility about the matter. Then he says that he is going to actually develop a Muslim bloc, lobby the Muslim leaders, and with them he is going to raise awareness and sensitize the West about the sensibilities of the Muslims. Do you think that this is on the money? Will it work?
As a journalist, I've been hearing this over the course of decades from all the prime ministers,
Okay.
from every government.
Yeah.
And most recently, we've been hearing from our Prime Minister Imran Khan. No one doubts his intentions and his sincerity to the cause. But again, I think general people, when you talk to the people, they seems to be fed up. They believe that each time we are told that there would be collective response, and then we will do something.
Okay.
Or we will do this, we will do that. But on the ground, nothing materialized, nothing happened.
So what you are saying is that they are taking out the frustration built over past 40 years on a government which has been in power only for 2.5 years.
But again, this particular government,
Does it make sense to
we
you?
can say it has performed better in terms of spelling out the cause.
Right.
The fact that the Prime Minister Imran Khan himself is very eloquent, and when he speaks, the international media hails him seriously.
Yeah.
But again, from the public perspective, I think the action is missing, and more importantly,
What kind of action is
I
needed?
think-
Hang on, let me, actually the question that I asked
The
was
action-
not whether it is going to have an impact inside the country. I understand that there are going to be many voices which will agree with what Prime Minister said and many won't. But will it work internationally?
I think it would not work internationally unless, as Prime Minister rightly pointed out, we come up with a very collective response.
Okay.
But at the same time, when the other countries are not acting in unison,
Yeah.
or they are not willing to act in unison, and we have to understand, I don't want to point out any particular country, but we have to understand a bigger picture. Most of the countries which we see in the north of Africa and in the Middle East, they've been built up on racial profile. While Pakistan is the only country which was created in the name of Islam at a time when this is very important.
This is the point that the Prime Minister also actually highlighted, that this country was created in the name of Islam. But here's the point.
We have to spearhead.
No, hang on. But here's the point. The only country that is making noise, that is actually raising its voice, should it be punished?
Creating noise is the job of the people. The government's job is to take action.
Like what?
Let me explain. Now everything is focused on the agreement. There was a negotiation between the representative, the protesters, the
Okay.
TLP and the government, and the draft was missing one thing, the core point. The parliament would not discuss the expulsion of the ambassador. Parliament would say what the Prime Minister has said. The government was supposed to adhere to the agreement it had publicly held with the TLP.
Javed Rana Sahab, I'm sorry, I respect you a lot, but I'm fed up with the idea of everybody siding emotionally with the miscreants rather than the state of Pakistan.
If the point
An agreement should bound people who agitate rather than the state of Pakistan. But somehow the entire intellectual class of Pakistan and punditry always has this habit of siding with the other side.
the point is,
Sir, I'm going to come back to you. Allow me to actually bring in Ahmed Hassan Mughal Sahab. Mughal Sahab, thank you very much for joining. Let me ask you about the aspect that the Prime Minister actually highlighted, the economic loss to the country because of the agitation. Sir, you'll have to unmute your mic. Your voice cannot be heard here. Mughal Sahab, can you hear me, sir? Right. There seems to be communication problem. We are going to come back to the studio. Ibrahim Khan Sahab, my concern is that I don't know how politics goes, right? And people, politicians are politicians, of course. But in the end, it is the common man who suffers. And everybody keeps on actually talking about what might have happened to the proscribed organization. Nobody talks about the 4 law enforcement officials who were killed. Nobody has sympathy for them.
This is the most unfortunate part. As I said earlier, there is, an issue which is very genuine, and we all are party to it. Regardless of you are from the government side or from the, the people who have created this chaos. Anyone with the sane mind cannot literally apprehend the kind of a reaction that we have given. Instead of going logically and trying to resort and trying to address the issue through proper channel, which was like the Prime Minister of Pakistan started the same issue even in the UN Assembly. He took up issue at every other forum wherever he could, like, please do not hurt us, because the Holy Prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, lives in our heart. And once you say anything wrong or...
Right. With your permission, let me bring in Ahmed Mughal Sahab, whose voice or sound has been actually restored. Ahmed Hassan Mughal Sahab, you can comment on the Prime Minister's speech, but I wanted you to actually comment on the economic loss whenever such agitations take place in the country. You can talk about everything that was said earlier. Another certain, sir, the same question, sir, I'm going to repeat. The economic loss to the exchequer because of agitations. Do you want to comment on that, sir?
Yes, of course. We cannot actually give you a exact figure that how much loss we have suffered as traders and industrialists, as the business community has suffered. So, but what I would like to say is that, there's already been agitation from the traders because of the timings of the businesses, and they've been suffering losses because of the limited times that they're allowed to operate. And on top of that, with this sit out in Lahore as well, so that has completely, stopped the whole economic cycle, and the traders as well as all the businessmen have suffered a lot. And these kind of things are actually being very difficult, making very difficult for people to run their businesses. With the corona for the last year, and then there have been a lot of businesses who have suffered huge losses, and they were trying to come back, with the economy improving, and there have been investments coming in, and these kinds of episodes have, shattered the confidence of the investors, both locally as well as international investors as well. So the government needs to sort this out as soon as possible, and these kinds of things I think, we need to be economically strong to to have a claim on anything, and first we need to make ourselves strong economically, and then we can get our terms and conditions that other countries are willing to accept.
That is a very good point, actually. We are sitting next to a country called India. We are sitting next to a country called India, and we seldom see any negative portrayal of the country internationally, despite what is going on in the country, right? And that is primarily because India's economy has boomed and it has more to offer to the world, and that's why everybody actually respects their sentiments. So, is it what you are arguing that Pakistan should be doing as well?
Yes, definitely. We need to make ourselves economically strong, and then, and nobody should be allowed. We're already having a problem with FATF as well, that with this financing and these kinds of issues that we're facing, and that is the reason why it's still in the grey list. And on one hand, the government has trying to ban this organization, and there has been so much resistance from the people, and so many protests that why an organization that is working for the Muslims, for the cause of the Muslims, is being banned by the government. So these things need to be sorted out. They need to be people need to be educated. That this is not the way that we're supposed to get our things done.
Right. Right. That is a good point. Javed Rana Sahab, here's one very interesting thing that was pointed out. FATF, right? Amazingly, in past 3-4 days, something very interesting has happened. You know where FATF is located? It is located in France. Pakistan is still struggling to get out of the grey list. And only a few days ago, it was announced that India is expecting its audit in FATF as well. Amazingly, wherever India has influence, Pakistan was first added to the red list of COVID. And then, of course, there was the matter of Pakistan's invitation to the climate event, right? The Biden administration's climate conference. And then we saw all of a sudden this group actually rises and starts attacking, or there is confrontation. Now the question right now is there a possibility that Pakistanis end up, because of their sentimentality, end up playing in the hands of foreign actors?
Well, I don't see that any particular organization you are referring about, there is any evidence to suggest that they are.
There is some evidence.
They are playing into the hands of somebody.
A WhatsApp group.
Unfortunately, there is a culture in Pakistan to declare everybody traitor. That's not fair.
Okay.
Yes, there is a possibility, and stronger possibility. The third party try to benefit from the situation by being part of the protesters, and they will do their own politics. To this extent, I would agree with you, but so far as there is no such evidence to suggest, and I think we should refrain from clubbing somebody as a traitor or playing into in the hands of the enemy. That is what
let me mark this moment
with the political parties.
Sir, Rana Sahab, let me mark this moment, because this is a first. In the past programs, when you have appeared, when it came to other political parties, you were not that cautious.
No, I did not never declare anybody.
Okay, I recall that.
Please make correction. That I never said so. Because you see, the point is that we have to see a bigger picture.
Okay.
There is a public sentiment.
Okay.
Right and wrong.
Right.
What are the political and economic implications of their protest? Those sentiments don't see that happening. And then attacking police vehicles, attacking public properties. Unfortunately, all major political parties have been doing so. PMLN, PTI, People's Party. What happened when Benazir Bhutto was assassinated?
Right.
Look at the scale of the destruction they caused. What PTI has done, this very building was attacked.
Okay.
Allegedly by the PTI in 2016.
Right.
PMLN attacked the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Right.
So this is unfortunate culture. It should not happen, and no one should be, single-handedly said this they are involved. We need to get rid of that culture.
Hang on. You must have, let me qualify. Each time there was an agitation where public property was torched or people were attacked, I, at least through this forum and others, was constantly criticizing it, right? That is who I am. But regardless of that, here's the point. You must have seen the videos that were shared by the police of Pakistan, Punjab police, where people, policemen, common people, are being beaten like hell. Kidnapped later on, but first beaten and thrown, their bodies being thrown over the ramp, right? And that was astounding. And amazingly, I kept on following various, YouTube channels of pundits, intellectuals in this country, with the exception of marginal people. Everybody was siding with TLP, not the state of Pakistan and the poor Johnnies who were being beaten.
We will condemn TLP, we will say this should not have happened. We are here to see the things logically. Why this is happening?
Okay.
How did these things go wrong? It was, let's be fair. Let's be fair. The government should, to begin with, should not have that agreement. When it had an agreement, it is a question of the credibility of the government.
Okay.
It has to comply with that agreement.
But you yourself said that it didn't include expulsion, A. B, you keep on talking about bigger picture. There is a bigger picture beyond Pakistan as well. And Pakistan repeatedly, thanks to the Indian propaganda, is boxed in. And at that moment, we start severing ties with the countries as well. Is it not actually is it going to help the bigger picture?
The bigger picture is that the Pew survey says that the Muslims would be majority in the Europe by 2050.
Oh, I don't want to go into that misdirection. With due respect, I'm talking about Pakistan economy.
I'm coming to that.
This is the country we live in.
Now, what they are saying that Muslims should use to get to what we are doing here.
Okay.
You see, we know this is a hugely sentimental issue in Pakistan.
Right. I'm told that the Prime Minister's clip is there for us to air as well, in which he talks about employment getting better in the country overall. Let us first see that, then we have to actually work our way to the second topic of discussion, that is the economy itself. Let's watch the clip.
जब हम फ्रांस के एम्बेसडर को वापस भेज के ताल्लुकात तोड़ेंगे उनसे, इसका मतलब कि यूरोपियन यूनियन से हम ताल्लुकात तोड़ेंगे। इसका मतलब क्या कि जो हमारी आधी टेक्सटाइल की एक्सपोर्ट्स है वो यूरोपियन यूनियन में जाती है, तो इसका मतलब आधी हमारी टेक्सटाइल एक्सपोर्ट्स वहीं खत्म हो गई। इसका मतलब बेरोजगारी, फैक्ट्रियां बंद हो जाएंगी, हमारे रुपए के ऊपर प्रेशर पड़ेगा, रुपया गिरेगा, महंगाई बढ़ेगी, गुर्बत बढ़ेगी।
The Prime Minister of Pakistan was talking about the possible consequences, or so to speak, the bigger picture that somehow some of us refuse to see. But let us now talk about the finance of the country, the economy of the country. The country now has a new finance minister, a fourth finance minister, and Shaukat Tareem Saab has actually taken over. So we are going to talk about the economic policies as well, what exactly is going to change, what exactly is going to stay put. And let me start with Ibrahim Khan Saab. Sir, why do you keep on changing finance ministers?
Well, the reason was because the finance minister lost elections and he could not make it according to the law. He was.
Are you talking about Hamad Azhar?
No, I'm not talking about Hamad Azhar. I'm talking about Hafiz Sheikh.
So what happened to Hamad Azhar, sir?
Okay, Hamad Azhar was given a temporary charge. It was not like for a permanent position.
Okay.
So the minute we had a substitution, the Prime Minister opted for that. And,
right. And regarding Hafiz Sheikh Saab, he was made finance minister because there is an order of the court that no advisor can chair the committee meeting.
Absolutely.
So this time also, he was not at that time the member of Senate. And Shaukat Tareen Saab, exactly the same thing with Shaukat Tareen Saab. He has been given the charge of minister, but he is not a senator.
That's correct, but again, the law allows you 6 months period.
Right.
In the meantime, we will try to again try to manage the thing that he can become a senator
Okay.
and get him elected so that he can work as a permanent minister for finance.
Right. For 6 months he is going to actually
For the period, this under the law, this for how long you can stretch it is
Okay.
up to 6 months.
It is up to 6 months. What happens after that? There is no Senate election after 6 months.
No, there is no Senate election after 6 months, but you find out the ways where you can, we are right now the largest representative party in the Senate. So we can arrange things in a way from where we can get him elected securely and successfully, hopefully.
All right.
And
Yeah, you have the numbers, but yet Hafiz Sheikh Saab could not get elected.
I know, and the whole world knows how he was defeated, which is very unfortunate.
And this time you are going to change the tact?
We are not going to change the tact. We are trying to, will get him elected from a seat where we have the simple majority.
Punjab? Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
Yeah, there is a possibility where we are.
Yeah, that's another very intriguing question. Hafiz Sheikh Saab could have actually contested from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, but he didn't. He was asked to actually contest from Islamabad.
Exactly.
And that was astounding, by the way. Are we going to actually talk about the policy changes or what to expect from the new finance minister in coming days?
I think policy for the most part is heading towards, like, we have been very much in a position to take care of the economy on the macro level.
Right.
Okay. And
what becomes of us micro beings?
Well, you see, when you have certain successes in the field of on the macro level, then the result of the ultimate result of the macro policies is going to
trickle down to the common man. Okay, right. Let me go back to Ahmed Hassan Mughal Saab. Ahmed Hassan Mughal Saab, we have seen questions about inflation. Even the Prime Minister in repeated speeches has addressed the matter. Then there is the issue of job creation. The Prime Minister pointed out that recently job creation is going up. But since we are started from such a low position recently because of COVID and everything, maybe it is a long way. How do you see the new finance minister actually shaping up the policies?
Actually, it's a bit surprising that, changing the finance minister at the time just before the budget and coming in for a term of 6 months. When Hamad took charge of the temporary charge of the finance ministry, we were hoping that, he himself is a businessman and he would put in policies that would be promoting businesses as well. The previous record of the new selected finance minister has been not very great. That we've taken someone already who has been served in the People's Party government as well. So what we need to do is the Prime Minister has been constantly taking notices of inflation, but on the ground level, people have still been complaining. The prices of everyday commodities have been going up. We're expecting the prices with the new budget coming in, the prices of all electricity, utilities to be going up as well. Temporarily, there's been a reduction in the prices of oil as well. But we don't know if the prices are revised every couple of weeks. So that is the way they are. But it is a bit surprising, that they should have, it's a big party having a majority, and they was someone from who has served in another party's government as well.
Right.
So that is a bit.
Mughal Sahib, that surprise duly noted. Let us now talk about policies. Do you think that there is room for changes in the policies right now? we have to look at revenue collection. We have to look at how inflation is managed. Of course, there is supply side management and there is demand side management. Perhaps the State Bank of Pakistan can look at the demand side, inflation. But when it comes to the supply side, is there a way to actually fix the problem?
The only way is that we need to increase our production. You've been seeing. I was reading one of the articles today as well that even with its cotton, we have been importing a lot of cotton as well for almost like was it $500 million that we are importing. So we need to look into that. It's unfortunate that any of the government that comes in, they have never made a policy that is long term. What they're always looking for is give a relief to the masses before the elections, and maybe reduce the taxes. But we are not able to sustain it, and we're expecting that there is going to be huge deficit of budget revenue collection between the collection and what the spending of the government is going to be. And with that, the only way to cover that is that you need to increase the indirect taxes, and that in turn will increase the inflation, and you'll see the prices going up as well. So that is what we need to do. We need to work on product or manufacturing, and unfortunately, it has depleting for the past couple of decades.
Right. The Prime Minister of Pakistan actually pointed out today that large-scale manufacturing has gone up, and there are other avenues where perhaps the economy is getting better. Javed Butana Sahab, I'm going to come back to you, but before that, I'm told Dr. Abid Qayyum Sardari has joined us, a noted economist, a member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Committee, also Executive Director of Sustainable Development Policy Institute. Dr. Sardari, thank you very much for joining us. Let me ask you what to expect from the new finance minister. What kind of policy changes are you expecting right now?
I think the expectation should get matched with the challenges that the economy is facing right now, and the challenges that right now at the macroeconomic front, one can see stability coming. Of course, the foreign exchange reserves, the record foreign exchange reserves right now exceeding $23 billion. Current account deficit is shrinking, and so are many other macroeconomic indicators. But the real challenge, which is pointed out by National Human Development Report of UNDP, that is income and wealth inequality, that is growing and growing at an alarming rate. And the challenge is to take care of those 40%, the bottom quintile, who are not only getting affected by inflation but also by COVID, and also by the structural and systemic inequality. Similarly, that report points out that almost 21 million, which makes up 37% of total workforce in Pakistan. So 21 million people, they got laid off from June 2020 to December 2020. So I think the new finance minister, he rightly pointed out that he wants to focus on increasing growth, and he wants to increase the growth through providing livelihood opportunities. So providing decent livelihood opportunities, taking care of those who are at the bottom of the ladder through targeted subsidies, and making life easy for them. That's the challenge, and that should be the expectation, of course.
Right. Dr. Saab, we have discussed it in the previous programs as well. We do actually focus on the grassroots level, and the government and the donor agencies all agree that there has to be a targeted subsidy. But you just pointed out people who have lost their job. We have to talk about the shrinking middle class. That actually the government also has to focus on, because the main voter base is within this class. But do you think that there is any policy solution to what has been happening to the economy and to the middle class over the past 2-3 years?
Last week we had invited the resident rep of IMF to FTPI for a webinar, and my discussion with her, the crux of my discussion with her that I could gather that IMF right now is showing flexibility, and showing flexibility if God forbid the third wave of COVID-19 it prevails as it is. So IMF would not be pressurizing the government to meet the quantitative and structural reform targets between that. And she also hinted upon providing another sort of financial aid for second round of fiscal stimulus if government of Pakistan comes up with some sort of targeted subsidy mechanism. So not only Pakistan but world over, the middle class, the lower middle income earners, they are actually facing the brunt of COVID-19. Their purchasing powers are eroded. So even if the inflation is the same as it used to be in pre-COVID era, due to jobs layoff and due to erosion of their purchasing power, they are finding life much more difficult. And this is what G20 and IMF and World Bank and all other multilateral lenders, they realize. So if the new finance minister come up with some sort of tangible plan for renegotiation with IMF, I am sure that there is a flexibility in IMF, and I think that is where perhaps the finance minister should focus now.
Right. Dr. Abid Qayyum Salari, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your input. Javed Utara Sahab, discussion now focuses on economy. And the issue of inflation seems to be a recurrent one that actually comes back during the month of Ramadan. Given that earlier we were talking about the sentiments of the Muslims, I think it is one of the fields where it should apply, but the prices go out of the, actually touch the sky. Is there a way to actually control inflation that might be actually inflation created by lust? Nothing else?
The point is that whenever the Ramadan comes, that means there is a more demand, and if there is less supply, obviously the prices would go up. But at the same time, we have to understand our culture. Our traders, unfortunately, they jack up the prices to a point which they should not have done. On one hand, we talk being a good Muslim, but on the other hand, when it comes to profiting, I think we leave no stone unturned to get it done. That is a very bad part of our economy, and particularly our trader class. This should not have happened, but this has been happening over the period of time. But seeing the bigger picture on economy, I think the government, when it comes to the macro economy, they have managed to put the economy back on track.
Right. In the right direction.
That is in the right direction, at least when we see that the current account deficit is shrinking, fast shrinking.
And fiscal deficit?
I think it would shrink, but maybe at a negligible level. But there are good things happening, that the current account, other than that, we see the trade import and export gap that is also reducing. And this time around, the expectations are that our exports would be touching somewhere around $28 billion US. And that's a very significant development. But again, the problem is that the benefits of the macroeconomy that has not been trickled down onto the common people. It will take time. People are quite unhappy when it comes to the price hike. And there is unprecedented price hike. And at the heart of this...
but here's a concern. I'm told that we are left with 3-4 minutes, but one concern that I have to particularly ask you is media's approach. I keep on watching programs in which everybody is talking about price hike and how it is perfectly killing people, right? But I seldom see any economic analysis anymore on any channel, because perhaps media has actually forgone that capacity to actually analyze these matters. Is there a chance that economic journalism is someday going to come back and we are going to talk about that as well? Very quickly.
A friend of mine who's an economist in SDPI, not the one you were interviewing.
Yeah.
He told me that actually some of the hosts asked him that please send us questions which we should ask you during the program. That shows the level of understanding of most of the journalists, unfortunately. That problem is there.
Yeah, but the structure of overall news presentation actually is a concern, right? And this is what I was pointing to. There used to be programs that used to focus on economy. They are no more there. But I am told that we have to actually start winding up the program. Ibrahim Khan Sahab, if you want to actually conclude, let us start with you.
One thing that all those points that you have made regarding the price hike, government is really taking it very seriously, particularly about the basic necessities. And we are ensuring on every tehsil and small town level that we are able to provide people with a cheaper goods with cheaper price cheaper prices, availability of goods at the cheaper prices.
Cost-effective products, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is working, and people, particularly the ones who have a hard time affording those things, they are much at ease during the month of Ramadan. And we plan to continue the same even after the Ramadan, that we can give some relief to the
people. So there is an element of hope. Let me ask Ahmad Hassan Mughal Sahab, your conclusion, sir.
I think it's really unfair to blame all the price hike on the traders. You know, if something is coming, if the cost of something is higher, then how would you expect it to sell it at a lower price or sell it at a loss? Another thing that we've mentioned is that the current account deficit, the only thing positive we've been seeing is that a lot of foreign exchange remittances have been coming in. And apart from that, the difference between the exports and the imports is shrinking because, you know, these imports have been curtailed a lot and there's been a lot of duties, and that is the reason that there's been a reduction in imports. So I would like to point to not blaming solely the traders for all the price hike is unfair.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mughal Sahab, that is understood. It actually takes many parties to make an accident, right? And that might be so, but with due respect, every Ramzan this happens. So maybe there is a need for introspection on every side. Javed Rana Sahab, your conclusion, very quickly, sir.
I think when we talk of putting our economy back on the track, then we also should see that the factors which have caused a lot of devaluation, that is at the heart of price hike. And we should not go for policies which result to the devaluation. I think this is my point.
Yeah, but rupee is appreciating. So that is a good indication.
That's a good indication.
And you pointed that out.
But still we are in the IMF program. So the apprehension still lingers on that government should not indulge in such exercise in future.
All right. I'm told that we have to conclude the program here. Javed Sultana Sahab, thank you very much, sir, for your time. Ibrahim Khan Sahab, thank you very much, sir, for your precious time as well. Ahmad Hassan Mughal Sahab, thank you very much once again for joining us in the program. And let me, although he has left, let me also thank Dr. Abid Qayyum Siglari once again through this screen for his valuable time and participation as well. Yes, three things. One, regarding the role of traders. We see that when COVID-related restrictions were there was a message going that there will be lockdowns, and the traders were actually revolting against it. And then all of a sudden there comes Mufti Munib's call, and all of a sudden they are okay with the lockdowns. And today was actually protest day, so there was some kind of shutdown. The second, and so there has to be some introspection. We have talked about the quality of price hike as well. The second thing is the role of media. Somehow the media has to internalize that it works under the structure of a state. And every pundit that I see somehow ends up actually, and this is not for the first time, every time this happens, TTP, TLP, this crisis, that crisis, always with the renegades and the miscreants, not with the state of Pakistan. So there should be some amount or some account for that as well. Regarding the third point, and that is the international angle, one has to point out, and I'm not talking about this debate that the Prime Minister has actually engaged in today. That is his mantle and he is supposed to do it. Regarding how Pakistan is being covered in the international media, and that worries me because in the past 20 years, these shoulders have carried the